Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special review episode from your very own Travis Now, the Clown Prince of Podcast, the podcaster mischief, the number one Kylo Ren fanboy. I have a nickname for every show I'm on here, so I'm gonna move back as to start off with video or audio listeners. Nothing's different. Video listeners, as you can see, video might be like a little choppy, not the greatest quality. It's because my Mac, that is the powered one that runs everything, went kaput. It's getting fixed right now. So I have a desktop, an older one that is running this. Audio for people, you're going to be fine. And as always, if you're talking about audio and you're talking about ads and stuff like that, head over to our Patreon. You could be listening to this episode or any other episode right now at the $5 tier, completely ad-free. You also get bonus episodes. You get episodes that are early. You get episodes right now that are not even coming out until February 2021. So there's some good content on there. As always, please, if you like what I am doing or anyone else is doing, please drop us a review on Apple Podcasts, a written review on Apple Podcasts. Those are ones that count. Those are the ones that help us grow. We're trying to get to 200. We got under 30 left, so I would really appreciate it if you did that. What else? Of course, check out the Geek Ultimate Alliance. That's our podcast network. 5 shows. I hit my hand on the table, lifted my hand up. 5 shows, 5 days a week, 6 shows. I'm on there every Mondays with the Marvel Alliance. Tuesdays, the DC Alliance. Wednesday is World's Finest True Believers. Chris has a great show. He's my Marvel co-host. He brings a guest on every time, and they talk about a comic book arc or run that they really enjoy. Thursday, you switch off between Slice of Film or Star Wars Alliance with Katie. And then Friday is Superhero Discussions with Travis and Greg. Right now, they're reviewing the entire animated series. So almost like what we've done before with Spider-Man or Clone Wars, they're doing that over there. So we got tons of stuff. And we just reviewed Flashpoint earlier, so tons of stuff on that network. On this network, check out Dylan. He dropped out of, man, I have not listened to it yet because it is a 3-hour and 45-minute one. Luckily, I'm back to working some like really full shifts here in the next little bit where I can actually have my headphones. One shift I can't. It's annoying. It's totally first world problems, but it's a juicy big one. So if you need something, whether it's our network or whether it's a podcast, if you have a job like mine for the majority of the time where you just need to pass time, Geekverse has you covered with us or the podcast network. Coming up later on this week, we'll be doing a newscast. Those newscasts we always live stream and whatnot. So search our social media, follow us on Twitter and Facebook to find out when we'll tweet out. Probably Monday when you're hearing this, I think is when it's dropping. You'll see it and we'll say, hey, we're going live around this time. We're going to have lots of fun, got lots of delays, talk about new Avengers game trailers dropping. So we're going to talk about that. And newscast is always fun. I think it will be the second cast in the studio, hoping that everything is A-okay. Quality wise, yeah. Hopefully I get my Mac by then. If not, it's gonna be tons of fun. Well, excuse me. I think that's everything. The last thing I would plug is the Nolan Retro. We're doing that in honor of Tenet. Obviously, Tenet got delayed, but we're still doing it just in case it hits the July 30th. If not, you got lots of great films. We're reviewing every single Christopher Nolan movie except Dunkirk because we did that. Our rule's always within 5 years where we've reviewed already. We don't review it. So we're not doing Dunkirk, but we're doing the every other Christopher Nolan movie, and then the Batman movies we're doing commentary tracks because we did retros about them 5 years ago, but those had guests and those had people that weren't with Geekverse, and commentary tracks are, to me, a different beast. They're always like hanging out. The retros are I honestly think our retros and commentary tracks have different fan bases. The retros are we're breaking this down, not scene by scene, but our likes or dislikes. We're commentary track, we're just having fun and having a good time watching a movie. So I think I've hit everything, right? I'm trying to think. What else is out there in the geek world? You know what's out there? Last of Us 2. Last of Us Part 2. To be... Oh, sorry, I must have got the frog in my throat. It's been happening lately. I think it's getting hotter and this podcast room is getting stuffier. Never great. So Last of Us Part 2. As always, I'm going to give you a non-spoiler section, then spoilers. This non-spoilers will not be that long because it's different with movies, right? With movies, reviews come out, but there's never an option to put spoilers out there. Most of the weekend, everyone's seeing it in that weekend that listens to the reviews. These are different times. So I'd say I'm going to do about, 2 to 5 minutes of non-spoilers so you can get my general thoughts on the game. If you should buy it or not buy it, I think you should definitely listen to that because I may have some things that you might be surprised. So listen to that portion, and then I'll give you, of course, the 3, 2, 1. I'll take a nice sip of my lovely reduced water cup. I love it. It's one of my favorite cups of all time. It makes the water stay so cold during these reviews. I run out of it very quickly, though. So to give you a quick history on how I got to this point, if you're a longtime viewer, you know I'm a big fan of this franchise, or at least the one game, and I've been very excited for this game. This has been easily one of my most anticipated video games ever, honestly. So the first game, I did not have a PS3, so that's where to bring in some like Naughty Dog history. I've still never played all of the Uncharted games. I've played parts of them. I kind of know big story beats or big set pieces that people kind of show, or you see in montages that people talk about, like this gaming moment, but I never got around to it. So I own all four legitimately, so I think I will at some point. I have a list of games I'm doing. Hopefully me and Dylan are going to get back to the Batman games because we have a Arkham Retro going on for Patreon, which will go live for you guys when it is all filmed and recorded. But a shout out to Garrett for that. Head over to Patreon. $1 tier, you can get us to review almost anything. A movie, a game. Keep it, like we're not going to review every book of the Twilight Saga. But for what we do, head over to Patreon. All the tiers are there. So the first game I didn't have until PS4. PS4, that's a whole story I've told before. I was an Xbox guy. That sold me. I had all the PlayStation except for PS3. As a kid, you kind of have to pick when you got allowance, right? So I picked that. I picked the 360, went back to PS4, and everybody. I remember Last of Us having the hype because I still worked at retail at that time. And those games, when they hit our shelves, they are gone that day, and it took a while. And it was... That's when, and obviously supply and demand, things were a little lower, but I don't think Sony even knew how big this game was going to get. And I just remember from the outside of PS4 did have a great showing, great conference, but that Last of Us stuff definitely had me teetering because my genre is solo story player games, specifically third player action games. There's some first person, but first person really doesn't do it for me. I know some people always say like they want to feel like they're the character. I feel like me playing the character. I'm a big movie TV guy, right? That's kind of my bread and butter. So I like watching as like a cinematic sort of piece, that interactive cinematic piece where I can play, have some fun, but really it's about this grand story. And of course there's things like Dooms where I love just shooting them up, or Madden, but for my bread and butter is third person games. And Xbox, that was kind of teetering away from it, and PlayStation was having all these great exclusives, and Last of Us was sold out that day, and throughout probably 2 weeks, people come in, hey, you have Last of Us that? You have Last of Us? Oh, no, we still sold out. And honestly, I can't remember a game I've seen that for when I was working in retail. I worked for retail about 3 to 4 years, so none of that realm, and not even with myself or friends where it's like, oh, I couldn't physically get this game. So that had that hype going, so I knew the second I had the PS4 when they remastered that game, I'm going to get it. I got it. And it's hyped up, right? Tons of people say one of the greatest games ever, blah, blah, blah. I remember getting and playing it, and at first just being like, this is just a zombie game. This is just, and I won't, there'll be spoilers for the first game, okay? So that's what I'll say. If you're not playing the first game, maybe tune out. But so I played it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine, like a good game. Not saying that. It's kind of how I felt about Breath of the Wild, where Breath of the Wild, I kept playing, and I went, this is a good game. I understand that it is great, but I don't think it deserves this milestone of one of the greatest games ever made. I don't necessarily know if Last of Us is that, but I think lots of people do claim it's that, and I personally have the first one up there, and I think if you could talk about story, there was just a clicking point where not even halfway through, but somewhere it just really started jiving with me, that game. And I went, man, I'm loving this game. And I kept loving it and loving it and loving it. And then once we got to that ending, one of the most shocking endings since Red Dead, which Red Dead Redemption and Last of Us are kind of tied for me, the greatest video game stories of all time. It was a moment that left me shaken, and I couldn't believe it. And it was just, man, it made me feel like certain movies made me feel when I sit in the theater, like, wow, I just had an experience. And that's what that game was like. And I couldn't, and again, I am somebody that I always call myself a mainstream gamer, and I probably shouldn't, because someone said to me, like, you're not a mainstream gamer, you play this and this. Like, mainstream gamers are like, you get your Call of Duty, your sports game, and then one other game for the year. I'm buying multiple games a year. I'm playing hours and hours. So I'm not a mainstream. I think I'm like a hardcore mainstream. And that's why for me, when even this review, it's going to be mostly story for me. There'll be some mechanic beats, but that's not really what I look for. I'm not like, that's why I check out Adamana. Oh my goodness, I got the, it's windy out. You see this thing for the video viewers? For the hardcore, in-depth master of gaming, I always turn to Dylan Musk. I don't know if Dylan Musk is the master of gaming, but I consider him one of those because he knows everything about genre. He knows, he would even say like stuff like developers that he's like shaky on. I can ask him and he'll know right away. He knows great gameplay. He knows when certain games started inventing things. Where me, I am somebody that takes gaming maybe more on a face value. More, like I said, I look at it at the mainstream level. I'm definitely more than mainstream, but I don't look at like, oh, did it change this mechanic or how to do this, or is it a little clunky? Because, yeah, as far as that, I understand Dylan's that way. Saris, who's in the Gauntlet's he was on our 20 or 15-hour stream, which thanks for that. he is another guy that said, I just couldn't play. I wasn't feeling the gameplay. There's other people like that, and there is times, especially in playing this one, I go, yeah, it is a little clunky. But that's never the most important thing for me, which is a weird thing to say in a video game, right? For movies and TV, I usually say characters can override a terrible story. I'm usually in the minority of that, but it's just like if I care about a character, I'll watch them go through anything. Good story, bad story. I love Wolverine and I love Hugh Jackman as Wolverine and Logan, and I love him in Wolverine Origins, and that's whenever I like him, I can watch a whole thing. For me, video games is a great story. Of course, I want the gameplay. If the gameplay is just like absolute trash, then no, of course I can't play. I'm going to put it down. But I don't think Last of Us is absolute trash or Naughty Dog. I think they have a certain style. Sometimes I think it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And I think that kind of is the same for Last of Us Part 2. So get the first one. I have that experience. I think it's a great game. Can't wait for the second one. And I'm waiting, obviously lots of delays, leaks, which luckily I had not seen. I was so waiting, and I didn't tweet about anything about Last of Us really for a while. So if you follow me on Twitter, you probably thought, were you that excited? I just didn't want to do hashtag Last of Us Part 2, and then some fucker would be like, oh, you know what? Well, the Hamburglar shows up, and he steals all their... No, I didn't want that. I wanted to go in as clean as possible. I didn't watch the last few trailers. I think I've only seen 3 trailers for Last of Us, and they're all like the teasers. I was going into this like... I did hype it up for myself quite a bit. And I think that might have something to do with how I feel about this game. But for me, Last of Us is very tough to talk about. I had finished this game. Usually when I do reviews, I usually get out as much as possible because everyone has a different style. I think Taylor takes a few hours. He likes to collect his thoughts, but then he goes, Dilmas is somebody, he'll write a script. He'll want to be very prepared. Not that I'm not prepared, but he has a certain set he wants to go. I'm somebody that I go, I want you to feel my passion. Not that those guys bring the passion, but I want you to feel exactly, I played the game, I put it down, and what did I think right off the bat, That's one of the reasons I started this podcast. I love standing outside of movie theaters with my friends and just talking about a movie. And that's why I love the review right after. But I did sit and think about this because this reminded me a lot of, and it's a weird comparison, but it's Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker is a movie that I still don't know how I feel about. One day I'll think about it, go, it was a decent ending. And one day I'll go, man, that was a horrible ending. And then I never say it's a great ending. Where this game, at least I have that. But I have been on such a wave with this game as far as me actually playing it. And here's my non-spoiler, and like I said, I'll give you a spoiler, so don't worry about that. And 2 other things to shout out as far as if you're here as far as thinking I'm a negative reviewer, as far as some of the reviews as far as Metacritic that are from the public are this game is pro SJW, and they're just like pushing an agenda. If you're here because of that and you think I'm going to give it a negative review because of any of those reasons, just tune out and walk away. I think you're kind of a loser. I think that you're missing the point, or you're just trying to stir shit. Things like, there's a gay couple, so they're clearly pushing a political agenda. If you think it's a political thing, I think you got a lot more problems in your life. Again, as always, we say, hey, you do you, but we don't really want that here at Geek First. It's the same. We talk about Black Lives Matter. We have no problem. We want a good community. We have no problem pushing people out that are assholes. So if you're one of those assholes that are purely just review bombing for the sake of politics and because you don't think 2 certain people should love each other, you can fuck right off. 2, I forgot to mention this, and maybe I should mention this before that I alienated some people, but is my last plug, I totally forgot, and Taylor will be mad if I don't do it, is we have been nominated for Kelowna's 2020 Best Podcast. There's 9 other nominees, and it's going to be a link down below. It's going to be the description, then right after that, and then Patreon. Please, we got till about July 9th. If you like what we've done, if you're a longtime fan, this would be great, because you see behind me, for the video listeners, all the posters we have for the new studio, and when we get the rest of them back and my computer fixed, it'd be great if we could put a plaque that said Geek First Best Podcast of 2020 in Kelowna, where we're home base. So it would honestly mean a lot, because you guys are always asking if you're on Patreon, if you're subbed after you're reviewed. I had one guy be like, well, I'm on the Patreon, I'm reviewed on Twitch, I'm subscribed on YouTube, all this stuff. How else do I help? And I kind of go, well, just keep listening. Here's something. If you have no idea, and this is something that takes a few seconds, 30 seconds, you find podcast category, you select Geek First, and it's done. It's over. That would mean the world to us. Obviously, we don't want to be like the Oscars and be like, it's just an honor to be nominated. But it is. It's pretty cool. It was cool to get that email being like, yeah, you are, consider at least a nominee for one of the best of the podcasts of Kelowna in 2020. And yeah, we're a small town, but that would mean a lot. We do a lot. We've raised thousands of dollars for charity and whatnot. So we take pride in being Canadian in Kelowna, even though we have lots of American viewers. So we would really appreciate that. back into the game, so I didn't want to forget because Taylor would get really mad at me. He'd treat me like a clicker. He'd beat me up. So this game, I got it my first night playing it, absolutely loving it. Going, I don't know if it's exceeding Last of Us 1, but it's matching it, and that's all I can ask for. Matching that quality or being very close to it, I didn't think was probably possible. And then the second night, maybe kind of did a day and a half, and I'm still loving it, loving all the story beats, loving all, because I'm excited to get in spoilers review, because my main problems with this game are not a lot of, obviously, like I said, there's those assholes, but there's a lot of people that are showing out story things that I don't agree with, and I think that are kind of, I don't know, a little overreactive, and I'm somebody that may be overreactive to some stuff. You get asked Dylan and the crew, I was like, man, this game, I can't believe I didn't want to pay for this, blah, 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 like after what was happening, and that's my second day. My second day, I can say I hated this experience, which sucks. That was a tough pill to swallow. That is, and even though my third day, I reluctantly started to love again. The reason I use reluctantly is because I always thought, oh, are we going to take a corner again like we did in that second day? And I could never fully trust the game and trust the story that was going on, which was unfortunate. The second day with this game, and there is, all I will say non-spoilers, there is a story beat and there is a shift in the game that I'm sure if you've seen leaks you knew about. Dylan kind of filming it after again. I had no idea. But if you didn't, it's just something, a shift happens in the game. And I think it's a shift that is unwarranted, in my opinion, a shift that could have been done in many ways very, very much more clever and better for me as a gamer, in my personal opinion. And I think it's a shift that I could see some people enjoying. It's a big swing, but so far it's all anecdotal, right? But so far, everyone I've talked to, the big swing has missed. Other than if you look at kind of critical reviews as far as online, like people that are the actual video game critics. I'm not a video game critic. I just we're fans. You know, we've been to critic screenings and whatnot, but I'm always giving just the fans' point of view of, hey, I'm a guy that lives in Kelowna. I like video games, and I love the first one, and here's my thoughts on this. I think Neil Druckmann and the team took a big swing. I think it was a huge miss, and this miss made me I bought the game digitally. This game has made me now, unless it's a Madden, which I kind of know this will be good to my standards, or Batman that reviews well and I'll probably enjoy. Select few games, I will go back to buying a disc for majority of games because I wanted to return. I was always going to finish this because I have the review happening, and it was just I not owed it, but I felt I owed it to those characters as far as I was very invested. I wanted to know the ending of some of their stories. But I'm mad I bought digital because I would be returning this game right after I was done. Even to get whatever EB GameSpot credit, just to be, I can't say never because I own the game, and I won't say never because never say never, right? But I would say if you're asking me a percentage, there's a over 85% I will never play this again. I played the first one twice, and the only reason it's just been twice is because it's a long experience, but there's one point where I was like, you know what? I want to get ready for the second game. I want to relive these characters, get a call up the story, and just because I enjoyed that story in that world, that's the tough part is the things I really dislike. They're still very well made. It's not like when I always talk about movies, lots of things like Rogue One. Rogue One is a movie that I think is super overrated, and all the time I go, oh, Rogue One. And I talk about it like you would think I would fail it or I'd say it sucks. I don't. I just go, it's a really disappointing, safe movie. And I always say, though, I pass it because it's well made. And that's kind of the case here. But now I've kind of been doing this switch where I give my kind of quality review score and then my personal review score if they're kind of different. And I will have that at the end of this game because I think the quality of this game, even the stuff I hated, was well made, was well thought out. There's some great set pieces in it. There was lots of thought behind it. To me, it wasn't a gimmick. I just think it was a big risk, a swing, and a massive miss. A massive miss that made me not want to continue playing this game, that made it a slog, that really, if I wasn't reviewing it, I wouldn't have powered through it. I would have put it down and be like, I need a few weeks before I get in this, because not in the good Last of Us way where I'm disturbed, I'm distraught, I can't believe they did the story route, I'm in awe. It's because I just did not want to play it at all. And it's, again, not because, the gameplay took a massive dive or the graphics were bad or there's lots of buggies. Like, if you listen to me in Taylor's Jedi Fallen Order review, there's times where it's just like the bugs were massive and it was a pain in the ass. It's nothing like that. It's pure story. And that was like a knife to the heart because that's what I'm about, right? A story. So as far as a recommendation, It is tough. If you're somebody that's more in the mainstream, kind of like, oh, I like Last of Us or I want to jump in, I say, wait, this is not an $80 game for you. That's the thing. It's tough, right? Because there is, like I said, this sequence or this twist that changes the game. And if it works for you, I would feel bad saying, hey, don't get this game, because maybe you play and you go, oh, I loved this and I wish I got it sooner. So it's tough. You just have to go on my perspective. If you are a long-time listener, if you're a new-time listener, you have to just kind of, hope for the best with me. I think it is kind of a little, I won't say mismarketed, but in a way it kind of is. It feels a little trickery at times what they're going for. It feels valid as far as I don't think they meant it that way, but that's how it ended up falling on me. And that's the biggest thing I'll take away with this game is I would say if you're a massive fan, you kind of have to play it, but I feel you are going to have disappointments like myself. It's just kind of something you have to do, right? It's almost like if you have all these suspicions, you're with somebody, right? And you have all these suspicions that they're cheating on you, but you haven't confirmed it, but for some reason in that hotel room, there's a chance that that person is in there with another person. You open the door and you go, I gotta see it for myself, just to know. And I feel like that's this situation where if you turn away and you're a massive fan, you'll go, oh, but I have to know how it ends. That's where I kept playing. I have to know how it ends. I have to know what the story beat is. Like, why are people complaining? Why do people love it? Why is it so diverse? This game is going to divide people so much, and I am so interested for game awards and stuff like that, because I would have told you at the beginning of the year this is a shoe-in to win many. This now I think is going to divide lots of people. Again, lots of the gaming critics seem very positive on it, but I haven't listened to a lot of spoilers, and I didn't read any reviews. I just saw the Metacritic score, which was a 96, higher than the last game. So obviously with that audience, the people that vote a lot, it's hitting very well. But as far as fans, it reminds me a lot of Last Jedi, where critics love it and fans are super divided for many different reasons that make no sense. So if you're hardcore, you have to play it, but be aware there's a chance if you open up that door, you're gonna see them under those sheets just shagging somebody else, and you're gonna go, oh, and and then maybe, hopefully, like the way this game ends, there's a reason, like it was a prank, or it was, maybe, I don't know, there's no good reason because they still shag somebody, but maybe you can recover from this. I don't know. But that's what I would say. And as far as a recommendation, if you're a hardcore fan, do it. If you're not, I say wait to pay the money. Wait for way down the line when there's a PS Now or PS Plus, which is way down the line. But I do think there's just a massive, big slogging part in this game that was a crucial mistake. So I think this game is a game that is great, that is filled with disappointment and disappointing aspects to it. And I think that I will always, this is my final thoughts as far as non-spoilers. I'll give my countdown, get water. I think it is a great game, but I will always leave with a sour taste in my mouth. And I don't think I got to fully appreciate the ending because of what happened. And I was really disappointed because I fucking love the ending of this game. This ending of the game, I don't think it's on par as number one as far as shock value, but as far as emotionality and as far as feeling closure with this world and characters, it hit it out of the park. And it's weird to see something and a team make something so great, and then on the other side just feel like it bit me in the ass. And like I said, I'll always think about, I loved that game for the most part, but then there was this section where I really hated it, so. And maybe that's it, right? Maybe it's almost like some people, if they're in a marriage, like, I love this person, but, there was that one time they fucking cheated on me. I still hate that, But the difference is, with Last of Us, I'm saying goodbye. That's one thing I will say, last thing, non-spoilers, that I really enjoy this game. I think it is a great game with a massive problem, which maybe could take it down to just a good game. I've been struggling with that all day. But I am kind of done with this world now. Not in the sense of I think there could be more, but I just think that it has soured me. And now with Neil Druckmann, it's tough because he's made one of my favorite games and 2/3 of one of my probably favorite sequel games. But it's one of those of it feels very shaky. And it feels now I don't have the confidence in him and that team as I used to. And, it's kind of like if a director makes a bad movie or comedy or a musician puts out a bunch of bad albums or a comedy actress has a bunch of bad sets. It shakes your confidence. And it's tough because they're still great in this, and I think I will check out his next game. But I don't go in there like Hideo Kojima where this is a day one purchase. I trust this man. Now I go, I don't know. So I'm going to give you the count. 3, 2, 1. You're safe. Everybody gone. If you're here, if you have played the game, we're going to spoilers. If you haven't and you don't care, well, welcome aboard. Where to start? So I think it's tough. Do I start with the pros or the cons? Let's just go through this with chronological order. I think I usually never do that with my reviews, but because I can do a good mixture of good and bad. The good as far as the pacing, and this is where I'll start off. Lots of people having problems with the story aspect of Joel. Again, spoilers, last chance, of Joel dying so early and how he dies. That is not a problem for me. So if you're expecting that, sorry, not going to happen. Because after I'd finished the game, I'd finally okay, I can go back on Twitter. Let's see what people are talking about with Last of Us. And that was a complaint from lots of people that he didn't get a justified death, and it wasn't like an Arthur Morgan, or it wasn't, something where it was really reflective. I don't think that made sense story-wise at all to want something like that for that character, because from a certain point of view, but in my opinion, and that's one thing that the game does do well, in my opinion, is the morality of good and bad, right? I think lots of people have said this game is just showing, this is just a bad option and it's bad. I don't think the game does that at all. I think it's very ambiguous as far as the people we're playing with and the motions they do. It's what Game of Thrones was at its best. No one's good or bad. It's not black or white. Everybody has shades of gray. Everybody who has done majority, of course, you have random I'm the Scar group and we just fucking kill people. Of course, you have those. But the majority of our main characters are, I've done lots of bad things, but for good reasons, or I've done good things, but they ended in bad, for bad reasons or had a bad result. And I think, again, the first game, I think there's a lot of people that say, this game is dictating what good and bad is. I honestly really don't, the way it flips things around with both Joel, Ellie, Abby. I think they do a good job of staying to that. So I think that's people just being a little sour grapes. But in my opinion, however you want to slice it, which we'll get into, they talk about, Joel killed a bunch of innocent people. And this is where I can't jump to. At one point, we do learn later on that the doctors doing that procedure had a chance. They could have told Joel, which we know they didn't, but they said, hey, what are we going to do? And again, shades of gray. It wasn't a bunch of evil doctors. They go, this girl's going to have to die if we make this vaccine. And they talked about it. You had this conversation. They go, we just have to do it. It's one life versus a million, right? It's that argument. And they show that they're struggling with it. So again, they're about to kill this girl, and they're struggling with it. And Joel, who runs in there, again, they didn't consent with him. They didn't consent with Ellie. They were just going to kill her. So you could argue that the people in the hospital, the Fireflies, were bad people. You could also argue that Joel is the villain of the story, or a bad person, because he went in this hospital, even though this cure could save, in this story, they put forward that it would save everybody, save millions. You could maybe restart civilization, right? He goes in there selfishly. It's warranted because he loves this girl. His girl's almost like his adoptive daughter, and they're going to kill her. And they've not talked to him or her, and they've taken the option from her, and he's going to go in and save her. The thing is, he murders dozens of innocent people. So at the end of the day, you can make the case both ways. If he is the hero because they took that away, or he's the villain because he, in killing 12 people, he also killed millions of people. He made that choice. He didn't even, hey, let's wake her up. I'm getting out of here, and I want to talk to her first. And then if she wants it, we'll go back and I'll say, hey, this is her choice. No, he made that choice for her. And they cover that phenomenal in this game. And that's the thing where with Joel, I feel if you look at him from the villain point of view, and if you don't, I think a lot of people don't, so maybe that's why it's how would you kill him off? For me, if he is that guy who killed a bunch of innocent people, he should just get beaten to crap very quickly, unceremoniously. He shouldn't get a hero's death, because I'm not so harsh on it, but I feel many people would view him not as a hero because he did a dastardly act. He did a terrible act. Even in the name of kind of love, he still did it, right? So there was that, and also I think it did add a good sense of shock value and urgency, and I think some people have also said that some of the violence is just for shock value. I could see, you could maybe make a case for that. That's, I think, subjective, but I think for this, it was just the marketing that I had seen did a good job of. I was worried he was a ghost very early on. That wasn't the case. And then I saw one trailer where it looks like they did some Infinity War Hulk trickery where he was in it more than he actually was, and not just because of flashbacks. But I think that was warranted because that projected or put Ellie on a trajectory to her story, to her mission, and the parallels between Joel and Ellie, and Ellie becoming more like Joel, even though she cast him out for doing this terrible thing, as we learned, right? So I think the way he died made sense because that's the way The Last of Us is too. It's this grimy, awful, awful world where everything goes to shit. So of course you're gonna have the father figure / the main character of the last game just get annihilated by people, and rightly so. That's the thing. All these people, Abby, her dad was gunned down. All these people have lost friends and family members because Joel decided to make a decision for himself. So I think that's warranted, and I think the way it happened, I thought it was very clever. As one of the times I liked playing as Abby is you don't know what's going on. People have speculated, is this Ellie's mother? We don't know. She's looking at a town. You're doing a mission, and then Joel saves her. And especially at that point, you go, oh, it's present day. So to me, I'm completely thinking about, like, so who is this person now? What does she want? And before you can put it, because so many things in movies, TV shows, games are telegraphed. There's tons of things in this game which are telegraphed, which sucks because I feel like the first one didn't have that. But before you can start putting together, like, maybe they're the people that the Fireflies that they killed. No, he gets shot in the leg, they beat him down. So I think Joel's death was, I think it fit for the story as far as his story, as far as Abby's story, as far as Ellie's story, and as far as just the overall package, as far as creating a better story. Because I think you feel robbed, and I think the people that are mad that he died so early, that's kind of the point. You're supposed to be Ellie, who is just enraged that they took her father from her. Pretty much, right? That's her father. They took her from her unceremoniously, quicker than you should. And it's the same way as Ellie. She's had 5 years with Joel, right? So if you were to play the game for 5 years or play a bunch of missions before, if all those, let's say people have said, oh, you could have killed him off in the middle game and had the send-off. Let's say you take all those flashbacks and you move those to the beginning of the game. One, like I said, I think you lose the sense of urgency. But two, then you don't feel that your heart's not ripped out because you had time with Joel. This is literally, oh, I'm getting back in Last of Us. I can't wait. What's Joel and Ellie happening? And then, oh, Joel's gone. And that's why even though Joel maybe is a villain and did some terrible things, you are playing as Ellie from her perspective, and you go, you know what? Fuck these people. And even myself, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get these people. But then I sit back and go, why do I want to get these people? These people are in the right for killing Joel. You can make an argument of killing in general is right or wrong, death penalty, of course. But I'm saying in this context, in this world with these characters, whatever Joel did, from their point of view, he came in and killed innocent people. In my opinion, Abby and her crew have complete all rights to go and be like, you took my father, you took people from us, we're going to take your life. And they don't even take, which we'll get into later, Ellie and Tommy's life, which adds another great shade of gray. So people being, again, what's good and bad. Clearly, if they were just bad, like people have said, this game is just showing you, here's the good side, here's bad. If they're just bad, they would have just killed everybody, or killed everybody, and Ellie just somehow survived, and that's their team down. No, they went there specifically for one person who did them wrong. So, phenomenal. I think that's fantastic, because you feel like Ellie, you feel like Joel's been ripped away. So the Joel stuff, I enjoyed it all. And the flashbacks too, I'm happy they went that route, because for a while I was worried he was going to do a ghost. And you know me, if you're a long-time listener, I like that aspect. I like the devil on the shoulder. I like the look over and he's giving you advice. I didn't want that with Joel, because I wanted everything we learned last game about Joel and the thing he did as far as taking her out of that hospital, making that choice. We need to see those conversations. We didn't see them in live time as far as the game world, but we saw them still as far as them happening in live time as far as flashbacks and how she learned about them and how they relate to the story. So I thought that was good. I thought the usage of flashbacks was good, time, editing, all that was good. And I think Joel and Ellie, obviously I'll probably talk about them more, but I think they are still one of the most intriguing duos in video game history, and I think they probably just are as far as a duo, as far as story, and I think they delivered a home run with that portion. Again, I am not on the camp of being disappointed that we lost Joel so early. I think it fit the story. And then we got lots of great flashbacks of them going to the museum, and he's surprised with the dinosaurs, and he gets this tape of the astronaut, what is it? God, why did I forget? why am I forgetting what astronauts, the spaceship, what they fly in, and then there's certain situations where he thinks she might like a guy, and she's like, you're barking up the wrong tree, like that's not who I like, and just all these kind of fun father and daughter conversations. But then as the story, these flashbacks are going along, you see Ellie is getting more and more curious about what happened that day. And then the scene where she goes back and she finds her brain scans and she sees blood everywhere, and she's kind of putting two and two together of something bad happened here. And then she finds that videotape or the audio tape of someone that survived describing what happened. And then Joel, who later on or early on just said, hey, they said there's many people like you. We can work on someone else. There's no vaccine. Sorry, kid. Sorry, Joel, out of here. He lied, and he has to come up straight to her, and she says, hey, if you lie to me again, you'll never see me. If you tell me the truth, I'll go back to Jackson. He tells her the truth, but then she says, I'm coming back to Jackson, but I don't want anything to do with you. And you can see as far as they have a come to Jesus moment eventually a few years later where the first time she kisses Dina, there's an older white guy, which again, some people may not like that for some SJW stuff, but hey, it happens. Look at some of the most problems in the world right now are lots of them are because of old white dudes who don't know how to change their views. And I'm not saying you need to change your views because you should just change them. You should change them because they're outdated and maybe life is passing you by. So that happens a lot. And especially in this world, the world went to shit in 2013. So I feel the world now is at least a bit more progressive, but we've seen the past few weeks, it really isn't. There's still a bunch of assholes out there. So to me, that fit because the time it was in. Not much of that has happened. So he calls her name, Joel pushes him, and then they have that conversation after of her kind of being like, you don't have to protect me, it's my life. But then they start talking as far as he's talking about, he knows he did a terrible thing. He knows how awful it is, but to give her a life, to give her a chance at life, because she was a kid. She didn't even get to live her life. She was bitten by this thing, and then she was tossed around and back. You could be this answer. She didn't get to live. Joel was giving her that opportunity to live. And again, another shade of gray, in my opinion, of showing, yeah, he did murder all these people, but it wasn't exactly, he was selfish, but it was for a good reason. He wanted this girl to have a life. And then she goes, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I want to try. And it's heartbreaking again because that's the last conversation they have. That's the last conversation they have until she sees him on the floor getting his head beaten with a golf club. It's just fantastic storytelling, and it's heartbreaking. I was like tearing up, and I'm tearing up now thinking about that because those two characters, the level of depth that they gave them both between Joel playing his last game and Ellie this game is some of the best storytelling I've ever seen in video games. So I think the Joel and Ellie stuff, that's all great. And then it's, as far as Ellie, so he dies, and you're put on this mission, right, of Abby and company, Tommy, Diana, or Dina, and then Jesse further on the line are go, we got to kill these people because they took out Joel. What is prime with this part of the story is we, the viewers, don't know what Ellie knows, and that's the other thing of doing the jump, of having the flashbacks and not Joel around. Because if Joel, even the way she talks to people before Joel gets killed, she's talking to him like they may have had a disagreement about something, but not that they had a massive falling out. That's because she's lying to our other characters, but we don't know that at that time. We just think, oh, they could be, it's father-daughter stuff. They're just she's mad that he pushed that guy that talked last night. It could be a many abundance of things, right? There's no clear-cut answer of, does she know he killed a bunch of people or does she not know? And that's why him getting killed right away makes that work, because if he's around, as the viewer, you would know, okay, clearly she's more mad than just an argument or him embarrassing her. Clearly she's just not talking to him, because we would pick up of, oh yeah, you killed a bunch of people and made a choice for her. So we would pick up on that. So with him gone, there's this air of mystery of she's going on this mission to kill these people. We don't know, is she going to kill all these people and then find out about Joel? Because also we got Joel, again, it's so good, and that's what frustrates me about the later on part of the game. But this stuff, at the beginning of the game, Joel tells Tommy the story. So they kind of set you up for, okay, Ellie, there's two versions of the story, and we find out which version it was. And it was Ellie went on this mission knowing all these people came to kill Joel, because Joel killed their family and friends, but she went anyways. Again, in her mind, that's not justified because it's her father figure. It's her friend. So because he was killed, she goes, you know what? Fuck these people. I got to get revenge. But if she were to really sit back and think about it, in my opinion, you have no right to go kill them. You can, because it's just a chain, and this game shows that a lot of the chain of revenge just leads to terrible things happening. And that's exactly where it goes. Joel does something very bad. He kills a bunch of people. Abby, going to get revenge, and I'll talk more about Abby in a second, makes her lose a lot of things. And versing that, Ellie going after revenge because Abby got her revenge makes her lose a lot of things. And then I'll talk about Ellie's endpoint later on, but there finally comes to a point where, one, she has sunken in with Joel's death to let it pass, but two, it's just this path is not the right way. As much as I think we've all been there, right? And maybe I'll shelf that for now. I'll get back to that because I want to talk about Abby before we get there. But there was two versions of, does she know these people are the hospital people and she's going to go kill them, and it does show her being a bit darker, which that was the story, or is it she's going to kill all these people and then at the end of the story someone's going to go, oh yeah, Joel killed a bunch of people in the hospital and you just killed these people that maybe, innocent is a loose term. That's up to for the viewer to decide. But in my opinion, are innocent because they're getting revenge or they're getting payback for him taking a bunch of people from them. So you had that going back and forth. And I think they, in my opinion, with Joel telling Tommy the story of what he did, they were setting up and leading you in the direction of she doesn't know and she's doing all this and she's going to find out the reason. But no, I'm speaking about that with Giddy, but the reason I'm speaking about that with Giddy that they didn't go that route is because the other route is so much more juicy and it lays so much more perspective on Ellie. Ellie is no longer just the good little girl we met in Last of Us. She is more like Joel now. Joel is doing something in the end of Last of Us Part 1 that is very, very bad, but in his mind, it's for the right reasons. It doesn't matter what you say to them, what the situation is. You're going to take this girl from me. It doesn't matter that you can save all these people, bring the world back possibly. You're taking my daughter in a sense. For Ellie, which a few years ago I don't think would have been the same case, but for Ellie now, it doesn't matter that he took your dad, Abby. It doesn't matter that he stopped the cure. You killed my father, and I have to kill you. And that's what's so great. Because the other way is, I think both ways would have been great. The other way is just like a pure twist, but then that keeps Ellie the same. Oh, she was always good and she made a big mistake. This is, you are feeling uncomfortable what she is doing because she is killing these people and you as the viewer know, and then now looking back knowing that she knows, she made that choice. She made that choice to do the Joel. She made that choice to be selfish, just exactly like Joel. She made the choice to go, I'm killing all these people. It might not be right, but it's something I want to do. And I think that it is a little strange with Tommy. We don't get too much with him that he has the exact same viewpoint. But again, he has the same thing, I guess, as you killed my brother and I got to kill you, right? So I think that was a very interesting dark route, especially at the point where Nora is telling her, like, you know what he did, right? And she just kind of goes, I know. And at that point, I did figure out that she knew because it's a bit, maybe a few hours before that, they're talking. It's her and Dina. And she's like, why did they just not kill you and kill him? And she goes, it doesn't matter. Like they make it like Ellie's playing it off to everyone else as I don't care the reason I have to kill them. No, now she was hiding the reason, because whether it's for Joel's legacy or whether it's for her well-being, because if she thinks about it, if she goes, why am I killing these people? And she thinks of the point of origin, oh, right, it's because he killed a bunch of people. That might make her feel a lot worse and feel not great as a person, which she doesn't near the end of this game, but at that point, she's kind of in denial. So I absolutely loved, again, same with Joel, everything they did with Ellie here. I'll speak about the ending again, but I love that too. Her and Dina, fantastic relationship. Their chemistry was good. It never felt like a add-on just to have a romance. It didn't feel forced. It felt very natural. I loved all their dialogue, all the scenes. She was not a new companion, because when you lose Joel, you're going to get a new companion as Dina, and then you get Jesse. I like Jesse and Tommy and Nep, but with Dina, who we spend the most time with, the Joel and Ellie dynamic was so fun. You go, oh, what's it going to be like without that? Because I was still looking forward to playing as Ellie and then having Joel with me. We didn't get that for the majority of the game. We get that in flashbacks, but I still like Dina. Do I like Dina more than the Joel stuff? No, but I like it for a different reason, because the Joel and Ellie relationship is that father-daughter bonding. I'll do anything to save you, and vice versa, right? This is two people starting to fall in love with each other. Two people that have the spark of romance and it's blossoming, but then there's tons and tons of loopholes and problems thrown away, whether it's the clickers, the scars. Dina's pregnant from Jesse. Jesse is already an ex-boyfriend, so there's tons of stuff they throw in there, but I think it's all really well done. I'm going to take a drink of water here because now we're getting to the big negative point. Because, like I said, I'm going chronological order. So, you do this whole thing as Ellie. You're tearing through down the people. You want to get to Abby because she was the one that did the killing blow on Joel and obviously looked like she was the ringleader. You're going through a bunch of stuff. And to me, I'm talking about this very lightly of just, you're going through, but it's all the stuff that I praise. There's flashback, there's character, there's story. That stuff was all great. All the stuff I'm talking about and just kind of very quickly brushing aside is all stuff that is in that high 9, 10 out of 10 stuff. Just, chef's kiss. So you're going. You play through this whole story. You play through a whole movie. And then there's a switch. And you switch to Abby. Abby, if you're not play the game, or if you're far along and you're not finished it and you're just listening for shits and giggles, whatever the reason is, Abby is the person that was the ringleader of a set of people that used to be fireflies. That are fireflies. It's kind of groggy, but they hunted Joel down and killed him. And you kind of get the sense, you don't know this exactly, but you get the sense, to me, early on, and that's why, again, I feel like some problems, one, people reviewing this game as far as fans, and two, some of the choices made in this game are people just aren't smart enough, or the audience, and maybe they're right, I don't know, maybe some of the people making this game feel the audience isn't smart enough, because there's lots of themes that come up a lot in this middle chapter, but it feels like it is hitting you over the head again and again and again. It feels like they've seen a Grinch where they're just force feeding you. It feels like you're at a buffet and you've eaten so much and you're full, and they say, you got to go back and have another. But I don't want to. Well, you can't leave if you don't have another plate. Well, I guess I'm eating another plate. First of all, that sounds like a fucked up restaurant, so don't go there. But so this middle chapter, to me at least, took it as these people killed Joel. Clearly, it was the people that he had something to do with taking their loved ones away, right? I don't think they ever specifically state that, but you kind of have an idea. I think maybe Abby even says that, like, this is, like, you remember me, or, like, you took my father from me. So you get it in an inference to some event, and we know what the event is. Other people don't, because, like, Adina, stuff like that, they don't know the whole story. So we get to the point where all this has happened. Ellie beat the shit out of Nora to get information. It's such a great scene. She comes back, she's scarred up, and then Dina just asks her what happens, and she was looking to find out where Abby was going, and all Ellie says is, I got her to tell me, which implies to Dina that she tortured the fuck out of this woman just to get this information, which she did. She's shaking. When she gets that door, her hands are shaking, she can barely talk, so she's at her lowest point she's been, and she's definitely turning into Joel, if not maybe in some aspects worse than Joel, but I'd say on par, because I think Joel would torture someone to get Ellie back, so, or even revenge. So I'd say the same as Joel. They've gone past the point of being a normal, sane person. So this happens, and we meet up with Tommy and Jesse, and there's some character stuff, some minor stuff I'll probably talk about near the end, but her and Jesse are talking as far as, like, she's like, Dina's pregnant, she won't tell you. Just some good relationship kind of soap drama stuff, which I liked. I thought that was a little predictable as far as this is the moment where Jesse gets killed. The second that pregnancy thing happened, I leaned over to Emily, my fiance, and said, Jesse's a dead man, because so many games and movies always bring up this, like, how do we deal with two people in love, but then someone's pregnant with another person's child? What do we do? Well, you just write them off or kill them off. Then it's like, we really miss them and we'll honor them, but we're alone and we can be happy and love together, right? So I didn't like that. That felt a little too obvious, a little just formulaic in my opinion. So a minor thing, because it's just Jesse, but fine, that happened. So they're at this theater. That's where they're holding up. Great set piece as well. They're at this theater. They hear wrestling with Tommy. They go out because Tommy found them. Tommy is pinned down to the ground. Abby and a child, I think, how do you say the name? Leave or Love? I can't remember. It's an Asian name. I can't remember how it's said, but she has this child with her, kind of almost like a mirror of Joel and Ellie, where she's saved this boy and she's taking him along. They break in the theater because we'll get into it. For obvious reasons, but she's looking for Abby. She's killed all their friends, so you would assume if Abby knew where she was, she's going to go kill her. So Abby breaks in, has Tommy gunpoint, and she points the gun at Ellie and says, I let you two live. I gave you a second chance at life, and you wasted it. And she points the gun, and we cut to black. big, very dramatic tension moment. We're taking a pause and going backwards to Abby's story. Now, we play this, I don't know, 15 to 20 minute, maybe it's longer than that. Let's say somewhere 15 to 20 minute of a young Abby, about 4 to 5 years earlier. And she's out with her dad in the woods, and you see it's her clearly because she has this long ponytail, and it's a bit shorter. In the game, she's clearly buff, and she's, that's been a meme, but, like, I don't know what's such a meme. I get she's bigger, but, like, lots of females are, look at someone like Gina Carano. She's built like a brick shit house and stuff like that. Like, there's strong, muscular women out there, but, maybe some people have a problem with that. That's up to them. Maybe I just caught them off guard. I don't know. I had seen the E3 trailer, so I guess that never really surprised me. Where lots of people were like, look, like I've seen like the Scott Steiner memes, and it's like I don't know. We saw this footage, right? So didn't really bug me. I don't really understand the point, especially I feel like Abby, once her dad dies, becomes very shut off, and she's like a soldier that just has one goal in mind, and she's prepping her body for that. And maybe that's just like a Batman sense that I like. I don't know, but so we meet Abby 4 years earlier. And this is the day where Joel's going to kill everybody at the hospital. So you get a little mission of her and her dad hunting or just doing some stuff in the woods. They save a zebra because the zebra was pregnant, so they save her. And it's just like this nice moment, like we did a good thing today. So there's this buildup of you get to meet the father, who is the surgeon that Joel headcaps, and then you get to meet a bunch of other people. And then you cut to she's at the hospital. This is where we got that information about them saying, hey, we're going to have to kill her to do this. And she comes in, Abby is like, this is terrible, and I feel so bad for your dad, but if this was me, I would want you to do this to save all these people. They very much throughout this whole game try to make you feel they do the other side of the coin. They're two people on the same side, the Eric and Magneto, right? Kind of same goals, but very different ways of handling things. And that's why they reflect each other in many things as far as losing people and their journeys. Very different, but very much the same. So she's at the hospital. The alarm's going off. You get her superhero or, supervillain origin, all depending on how you look at it, because I think that's what this part of the game is trying to do, is they show, okay, in your mind, this is Abby. She killed Joel, and as Ellie, you're just saying, I gotta kill Abby. So it's tricking you as the game player to go, yeah, I gotta kill her. But really, if you step back and think, you go, should I be killing her? Do I want to really kill this woman? She lost her, at this point we didn't know her dad, but it felt like clearly she lost a lot of good people. So is she right to do that? Should I just let her walk away and go, you know what, Joel made a mistake and he's suffering for that. I maybe shouldn't have to suffer for that. Ellie takes a different path, and that's what I think makes the movie great, or the show great, or the game great. That's how I think about these things, because it has that quality. So it's the day of, right? Abby finds her dad, everybody dead. That's her origin story, and they do this great thing where they're panning down on the ground, all the dead bodies, and they go onto Abby's face. And Owen is holding her, who is her boyfriend, who we've, again, seen all these characters we're about to meet in Abby's story, Ellie has killed, and we've seen all the results of their ending, and we know their end point of their story, and a back half of their story. So they do this zoom past, and they go to her face, and I think, oh, this is great. You know what they're gonna do here? You're going to go to her face, and it's going to slowly transition into her face now, and it's going to show her mini-villain origin story of how she got to this point and why she's here to fucking kill Ellie, and why you shouldn't feel good about it, because she lost the last family she had, and Ellie now is taking away the rest of her family and friends. So fuck Ellie, right? I felt that, and then they go, meh, we're going to jump a little bit forward, but not to the point that you're at, just a little bit more in Abby's story. And then when you get to a point where you complete a little mission or a little story beat with a character and other side characters like Mel or Owen or Nora, there's all these people you meet that Ellie has killed. You go, oh, it's ending right now. And they're like, oh, man, we really need some supplies. And Abby goes, I'll do it. And you go, oh, this isn't over yet? And I was playing it. I played the first mission where she does that, where it's at the camp and you kind of get the scars kind of ambush you. I played that, and then I paused it, went to bed, because I just thought, oh, this is a chunk in the game where I had already felt like they overstayed their welcome, but maybe they're getting to some point, or they're introducing us to the side characters. So that's fine. But it kept going, and it kept going, and it kept going and going, and maybe it's not as long, but it feels like, and I don't even want to say feels like, it is close to the length that you played with Ellie, which is one third of a game. And you play another 1/3. So the first third, 1/3 is Ellie, the next is Abby, and then the ending is a mixture of the two. This is the part that does not work at all. It is, and I doubt they're this far along because I don't think they play the game. But I'm sorry for anybody from Geek Ultimate Alliance, if you're a big DC fan, you're listening to this. The BVS Ultimate Cut, people all the time talk about how that's the superior version of the movie. They tell you so much. They make so much sense. There's little things you didn't know. To me, adding more info to something doesn't make the movie better. It can fill you in and, okay, sure, I'll take that back. It can make it percentages better, point percentages better, but not leaps of bounds. The info you can get does not make a bad movie into a great movie or a great movie into a better one. It just goes, okay, that's fun to know. It doesn't become fun to know after hours of it. And BVS, again, that's for movies and TV shows. BVS, that's an extra half an hour. I think it's long, and I don't think it adds that much, and I think there's some stuff in that half an hour that hurts the movie actually still, too. So I think it balances it out as far as good stuff and bad stuff. This is like 4 to 6 hours of stuff we don't need to know. And this is something that Taylor throws at my face all the time. And maybe other people do, too. And if you feel this way, it's not a con. I'm not saying get the fuck out of here. Taylor's one of my best friends. And we have this debate all the time. And it just comes down to taste. I don't like mushrooms. I don't care how you make them. Deep fry them, stuffed mushrooms in a pizza hidden. If I eat a mushroom, I start to gag and I want to vomit. The texture, the taste, everything. That's just the way I'm built. I don't know why. So for me, I'm never, as of right now, my whole 27, going to 28 years of life, never liked a mushroom. Probably never will. That's the way I am with prequels. Now, the difference is prequels is not so much as far as, maybe I worded that wrong. Prequels, there are exceptions to the rule. Mushrooms, there's no exceptions. What I should have said is it's more the whole, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And Taylor says that to me every time, pretty much, when we're talking about prequels. And tons of other people do, right? Of, you just got to sit back and appreciate the story. Stop thinking about the ending. Stop thinking about how you know everything. Like, there's rich stuff in these characters' stories. There could be, sure. But for me, first of all, if I know the ending of a character's story, that I already check out a little bit because I know the result is lots of tension's gone. Even though in a video game when I'm playing as Ellie and I know, hey, this is a 20-hour campaign and I'm only 2 hours in, very likely she's not going to die here. But as we saw with Joel, there's a chance, right? So anytime there's a clicker, anytime there's a cutscene going on where a character's in danger, maybe she dies and jumps over Adina. Maybe Joel, There's a sense of urgency and there's a sense of direness to it, of this could change at any point and I could lose a character that I care about. I don't mind Abby. I don't think I care about her. I don't care nearly as much about Ellie, and I think that's because some of the things they did in this game took that route for me. But at this point, I don't care that much, but I really don't care because I know, of course, I can die in the game, but all I got to do is hit restart, and it says, oh, in under 1 minute, we'll restart the game. Great. As far as the story, I know she's in zero peril. And the other thing is, so it's not even the destination. And that's what's so funny with these leaks, and I can't wait to go back and look and see everything that was leaked, because it feels like when you play Abby's section that I read the leaks and I'm playing through the game knowing every single thing. So, a spoiler for Last Jedi. I was spoiled that Mark Hamill. I was spoiled that Luke Skywalker died, right? So near the end of the film, I'm looking for the points. Is it going to happen here? Is it going to happen here? So when he's sitting on this fucking rock, I go, oh, okay, this is where it's happening. That sucks. That's what this game is. But it's you didn't have to see the leaks to do that. I'm sure people did see that, but they leaked it itself. You played through the entire game as Ellie. You kill these people. You see these situations, and to me, you learn enough about these characters to know a right from wrong, to know if they're good people or not. Even the second they kill Joel, it's not they killed Joel and they're out. Oh, these fuckers. No. They killed Joel, and you can hear it's muffled because they want to hide certain conversations, but some of these characters were here to kill Joel, and they're really mad. One guy, man, he spits on him, right? Then there's other characters saying, oh, and then the characters go, okay, we got to finish up, we got to kill these two people, and then multiple characters going, no, we can't do that. We're only here for him. These people don't deserve it. They may be good people. We can't kill them. So from the first instant we meet all these people, we know there's some good people in here that did not want to do this or did this just because of justice, right? So that happens. And then even then with something like Mel being pregnant and you have Ellie kill her. If it's just a regular person, Mel not pregnant, fine. But you making that character pregnant, Ellie kills her, takes off the jacket, sees there's a bump, there's a baby. You make her kill her, you make her pregnant, you are putting in our minds of, look, you not only took this woman's life, you took the life of a child, which we just talked about on Insomnia. Check out that retrospective. In North American pulp culture, as far as movies, TV shows, games, the lowest of the low, and you got to kill a couple dogs in this game, but it's more because you're being hunted, right? But the lowest of the low, as far as a character being maybe irredeemable, is killing a child or killing a dog. And with this, you do that, you have Ellie kill this woman who is pregnant, so you already have placed the idea of Ellie, and I do think there are, when I'm talking about the what's good or bad, there's some things, if anyone says, well, me killing a pregnant woman, they're telling me that's bad, that's dictating how I should feel. Yeah, you fucking idiot. Like, there's certain things in this game that, of course, aren't more or morally ambiguous, because killing a pregnant woman, no matter what, is not good. You know why? Even if that pregnant woman is awful, there's a chance that child in her could be someone great, and you took that away from them. So that's why it's a no-no. Or child in general is the same thing as killing baby Hitler. Of course he becomes beyond Hitler, but if there's a different path, you don't know that, so you can't kill the child, because at that time you don't know. It's just a child. You don't know this person's going to grow up to be this awful person who should be in hell getting pineapple shoved to their ass, little Nicky style, right? So you don't get to make that call on a child. So Ellie doing that, automatically you go, whether Mel's a good person or not, you go, she just did something bad and did something that she's going to regret and think about the rest of her life. But then they do these flashbacks, and you play as Abby for hours, and every time she'd be like, I can do this, or we can do this, or let's go on this mission, I'd be like, no, God, no. And the thing is, I don't mind Abby. I liked the Abby character enough, and I loved the kind of Thanos. She is the villain of the story, but she has a right point of view, or a point of view. I don't want to say Thanos was right, or Killmonger was right, those sort of things, but in this sense, more of, no, you know what, you can make the case that she is the hero of the story. The same way people kind of talk about, is Joel a villain, is he not? That's a conversation to have. Same thing about Ellie, and same thing about Abby. But I think everything done with her in that portion is stuff that we are learning in Ellie's story and stuff we'd already learned. So it is just constantly bashing you over the head again and again and again of themes you've already learned. The themes about revenge, the themes about relationships with people, the themes about rage and what it could turn you into, because she has kind of a moment where she turns around and goes, I can't be this person anymore. She doesn't want to kill this child, and that leads to this whole thing with Scars and Isaac turning on her, going against her people. And that's the other thing, if you take about her kind of mirror story with Ellie. Her story in general I liked, but it's nowhere near Last of Us. It's more of a Community, almost Walking Dead thing. I have Walking Dead comparison, but is a, hey, there's this leadership from this resistance cause, but he may be flawed, and do we overthrow him? That's a story we've seen many times. And just like Walking Dead 2, with the whole stopping at a certain point, how many times in Walking Dead did they do, Morgan's back in the show, oh my god, I can't wait to see it next. Okay, and now for the next 4 weeks, we're going to show you what he was doing. Oh, he was building traps, and he met this white guy that taught him karate and stuff. I give a fuck, but to the lowest nth degree about all those little details. Much like those episodes in Walking Dead, you could give me 2 or 3 flashbacks to go, okay, this is what happened, great. You could have truncated her story down easily to an hour. I think less, but you could have done an hour if you really wanted to. Because I already know these people are good. Even if you want to say it's debatable, you could still say, okay, they're the villains of the story. At the end of the day, they're still villains in the sense of they're not terrible people. They didn't just say, hey, there's this random old guy named Joel, we're going to kill him. They had their reasoning. They were fleshed out villains, if you want to look at them as villains. We already knew that from not having to see their point of view. So to do all this, like, to throw like a love triangle in with Abby and Mel and Owen, it's like, oh no. And then you got the sex scene in there. It's like, we don't need this. You know, like, I'm not saying because she got naked. And it's just like, I don't care. Owen's dead on the floor. We know where this is heading. None of this stuff matters. And it just I don't get it. I think the only thing, especially that mission of the camp, you could further go into, which I appreciated. I like that. I could say, okay, I understand okay, on the surface level, these are good people, but we wanted to give you just a bit more backstory to show how Abby was connected to all these people and how they act in real life. So I think, okay, even though I think it would have been perfect to do just that 15-minute mission of Abby as a child, you go to her face, then you cut right back to the action, that would be like, I feel like, she's justified in what she's doing, and I get it. But no, they got to go this whole route. And same thing of like, okay, if you don't do that, do that. And then the first mission, you go, okay, we learned about Abby's origin, and we learned all these little dynamics go on in the story. Even when we played as Abby the first time, which I liked when she bumps into Joel, great setup of, like I talked about earlier, you're thinking about what's going on. You don't see Joel getting killed coming. She's even like, oh my God, I can't believe you got Mel pregnant. That gives enough context to go clearly, and they have the flashback with the hospital. Clearly there was a relationship. They had a falling out, and now she's pregnant with somebody. Obviously, she's more saying that because they, they didn't even sleep together at that point. So it's just like clearly, again, so we didn't need that. We didn't need to throw in another love triangle sort of deal because that doesn't change Owen's point of view. Like, he ends up staying with Mel. Like, nothing really comes of it. We had enough of going. They used to be in love. They had a falling out because after her dad dies, she's shut off. He's trying to make some moves, maybe make love, and she's just not for it. And that's what happened. She didn't recover from the death of her father until later on. Then they get back together, but he dies. And I guess to show, like, I just think that's really cliche of like, oh, we fucked each other and we were going to get back together. Maybe even though she says, like, get your priorities straight, like, don't look after me, look after your baby. Even then, it's just trying to show like this, like, oh, they almost could have been happy, but Ellie took it away. No, it's still clearly Owen's her friend, and clearly she's still feelings from him if she says that line, I can't believe you got her pregnant. Of like, we really are done. We can really never return this relationship. So it is just, they already laid, that's the thing where they took stuff that was subtle in the plot and just amped it out by 1,000. And they did like the Bird Box of like, look at it, like you see it, and it's like, yeah, I see it, I get what you're going for. And then again, and it kept happening. So all the story stuff was just a black hole of enjoyment. So this is the thing that I can go on as far as like gameplay and whatnot. Well, not necessarily gameplay. That's going to be still far ways away because I'm talking about story. Gameplay, I don't have much to add. I think they've improved some stuff. I still think there's some clunkiness as far as like the shooting in this game is not the greatest, but I think some movement of Ellie is great, but it never feels like perfect. But for me, that's not my main goal of what I want in the game, right? I think there's some fun mechanics as far as some new weapons you can do and some fighting styles and some new like shivs and just the way you could like create a bomb and throw it at a clicker and it explodes. And I think there's some really fun stealth sneakiness thing. And I will say that before I get back to the story is the stealth in this game, holy fuck, they amp some of this up hard. This is where, if Dylan, I'm not sure if you're listening this far along, but you love stealth games. I know you're probably never going to play this because you didn't really like the controls and whatnot, but if you appreciate stealth games, I think people would appreciate this game because they really lay it on thick. And I feel like there's certain situations where it is the whole like, yeah, if you just have a foot sticking out, they'll see you and that's it. Like there's some times where I had to replay missions quite a few because there'll be guys everywhere. The dogs, they're all in different corners. You'll have a house and there'll be like 2 outside, 2 downstairs, and 2 upstairs. Okay, now get out of there. And it sounds easy, but the way that they make them, the CPUs like walk around and patrol, very well done. So that was very challenging. But that's the thing that sucks is so I had a great time doing that with Ellie, but then we get to Abby. With Abby, I didn't have a great time doing that because I was taken out of the video game. When I was playing as Ellie the first time, and then near the back half, but the back half I was still a little sour tasting, so I wasn't enjoying it as much. So that kind of sucks that it kind of hurt me that way. But I was in the world. I was like, I want to sneak. I want to play this out. I either want to kill these people, or I want to get in this house to get the information, or I want to sneak out of here and not be seen. That was taken away from me in the Abby part. And again, if you're it's about the destination, not the journey, or it's about the journey, not the destination, then you're just going to disagree, and we'll, like mushrooms, we'll just have to agree to disagree. I just wanted to move on from the story that I thought the story was fine. Maybe Neil Druckmann wanted to make this game, and he just felt Sony wouldn't want to publish this as like a game in the Last of Us world, so he shoehorned this like battle against the Resistance leader and all this in one game, which, I didn't want. Really, and if I did, I'd want a separate game. I think there's a version of this game where you could have made this game and then it ends with the cliffhanger of introduce you like, oh, this is someone that Joel's, like, he killed someone that he killed her dad, and now part 3 happens, and now it's Abby versus Ellie, and you got this, and I think that would have been really great, but they didn't go that route. They gave me a fucking 6-hour prequel in the game that I did not want really at all. Because the story is fine. It's not bad, but it's fine. I think acting in it's good. But I was just rushing through because, one, like I said, I think the story is fine, but not enough to really keep me hooked in because I think the story would have been better, too, if I didn't know everything, which I'll get to in a second. But I was just rushing through everything. Even in Stalker or, like, kind of sneaking missions, I just want to run through here and get past it. I just really wasn't enjoying it. And the longer the game went on, and especially that there comes a point where oh, I'm going to be playing this for a while. And I did, because I was getting so bummed. I did look up, no spoilers, but I just kind of like asked around, like, hey, how long do you play? And it's like, yeah, you could play for a long time. And I just got like an hour mark. I was like, oh, okay. So that just made me go, I just want to get past this as fast as possible. I wish and this sounds bad, but I wish there was a skip option, especially playing this game again. I don't think I ever will. If there was hey, you could skip past Abby's spot, I would. I will watch the cinematic cutscene of this movie, which just sucks for like me spending $80 on a game, but I will watch that on YouTube, and I will skip majority of Abby's things. I will skip 85 to 90% of the story of Abby, because it's not that she's a bad character, I just didn't like the way it was laid out. So I was rushing through it. That made me not enjoy the gameplay. That made me get frustrated. That made me not like what I was doing. And it made me, from a game that the night before I was loving and enthralled with and couldn't wait to keep playing, it made me dread going back in that world. And I couldn't believe how much my hype had gone down, how much my enjoyment had gone down, how much everything had gone down. And I think the two versions of, like I said, there's 3 versions. In my opinion, the best of just a truncated, very smaller version, that 15 minutes of just that mission, and you go right into it. But fine, so that's one. Number 2 is a play on that of, like I said, an hour, maybe even 2 hours. I'm gritting my teeth, but okay, so an hour 2 version of the story, fine. Definitely an hour. I'm just going to say an hour, because 2 hours even then is like, ugh. Of that, or what they should have done, and at the time I may have always been like, I want to get back to Ellie's story, but they should have made it parallel. They should have you play a section of the game as Abby, and then you go over to Ellie and you play as her. So the second Ellie gets to the theater, you switch over back to Abby, and she's walking right in the theater, and then you switch back to Ellie and things like that, because then I wouldn't have known every single entire thing that happened in Abby's story. I would have been invested. I would be like, I think I would have been way more invested. Like, oh man, these two, like, when are they going to meet? It's like Heat, right? When are these two ships passing in the sea going to meet each other? You have De Niro, the bank robber, who's the best bank robber in town, knocking off all these banks. You have Al Pacino, the best cop, who has caught everybody, but he can't catch this guy. When are they going to meet up? You always see he robs bank, he's close to get him. Vice versa, right? They're always close. When are they going to meet up? You could have had that great Heat dynamic going on. But no, I know exactly when they're going to meet, because every time I was just waiting for her to go back, Abby, to the aquarium and find Owen dead. And when she wasn't dead, I would be disappointed, because I'm like, no, we have more story to go with Abby in this prequel. I was like, no, because you knew the exact point when she's going to find this and be motivated and find that map, because they make it very obvious Ellie drops his map. So I wish they went back and forth, because even the third part of the game, which I was, again, having some sour taste in my mouth, but I end up loving and enjoying at least the story aspects and one of the boss battles, you play as Ellie, you play as Abby. You play as Abby, you play as Ellie. You go back and forth, and that was much more enjoyable. That was easy to digest, because you also just didn't feel like I just got like I said, buffet full ×2 of Abby, of stuff I didn't really want, and that would make it go down easier, if not just force-feeding it for 6 hours, like, here you go, here's Abby's story. It'd be like, oh, I'm really into Ellie's story, but okay, I'm going to play as Abby for a little bit, but then right back to Ellie. The whole stopping, I get what they try to do with the tension, as far as you stop at the highest tension and how do we get here, because the game, or you really want to get forward. I think it just maybe, for myself and others I've talked to, pissed us off. Be like, yeah, I just want to get to the point so I can move forward with the stuff I care about. And that made you stopping to playing as Ellie at a cliffhanger not care about the stuff you were playing, because you just kept thinking about getting in that cliffhanger in all the wrong ways, in my opinion. I think that they should have done it parallel, and I think it wouldn't have been the right move. I still think it could have been shorter, and this game would have been much better. But if they want to do this full story, I think parallel would have been better, because there's even some great set pieces with Abby, as far as that huge monster she fights, or when you go and get that boat with the boy and you got to break through and there's fire and you have these great fight scenes. There's some great set pieces in there, but I still just never fully appreciate them because I go, I'm still, one, I know exactly how this is, not exactly, but I know the result of this, and two, it's just I want to get back to the characters I care about, and now you've made it that I don't care about Abby that much, and I do a little bit, but not to the extent of I want to see this whole story, where I feel if it was parallel, you would start to care more about that character. I think that even the fight with Ellie would have been better if you played as Ellie where you lost, because that doesn't happen in a video game much. It does happen, but if you're as Ellie, you think, oh, I got this one, right? So it's the same way of when you're playing as Abby, and I was really with the entire game you'd play as Abby, and this game would be even lower than the score I would give, which is not, it's not like a super low score, but it's a lot lower than I thought I was going to give Last of Us Part 2 the first night. You go in there playing as Abby, and you know, okay, I'm going to beat the shit out of Ellie and win or kill her or something like that because you're playing as this character. And I just felt with that story, they were trying to, again, I felt they had already justified in the 15 to 20 minutes of why Abby is a good person and why she's doing what she does. No, they need another 6 hours to almost make you feel like, oh, if you kill Ellie, it's okay because you like Abby, right? Like you have Abby. I still don't. I feel more infuriated with Abby than I ever did. So when you're playing as that, you just know you're going to beat Ellie. So it would have been better to me, in my opinion, as if you're at Ellie, who's overcome everything in the first game. In this game, you're playing as her, and you go, okay, here comes Joel's kill, I'm going to take her down, and you fail, you'd feel that defeat a lot more because you're still in Ellie's shoes and her perspective. After she gets defeated, you jump 9 to 12 months later, maybe even later than that because the kid's a little bigger, to when they've Dina gave birth to JJ, which is probably Jesse Joel or Joel Jesse, and they're living at a farm. They have a big gate. They're completely by themselves. They're Red Dead Redemption style, but they're having a good life, right? But you can see that she's still shaken by that experience, and she still feels like she let Joel down. You being the one that beat her down robs you of that experience because as a player, you should feel confident, and you should be, because there's one point where Abby throws her up, and she's choking Ellie, and you're smashing Square. But the way the camera moved, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Mid-fight, you're going to change into Ellie's perspective and then fighting this way. And they didn't take advantage of that. I think even the whole fight, you could have switched back and forth between the two characters. But then I still feel if you're playing as Ellie and you just got the shit kicked out of you and you say, hey, and then Abby tells you, if I ever see you again, you're dead, that would stick with you a lot more than where you're feeling conflicted. Not so much as like, I've seen that before, like, oh, it's to put that point forward, you're feeling conflicted because you're fighting against Ellie. I just felt conflicted because I want Ellie to survive because that's the story I care about, not because I think she's a great person. She did a lot of bad things. It's just the story I invested in more, and I think that was a big mistake they made. I think that's what they're trying to do with the 6 hours they gave you to invest in Abby, but again, I think it just deterred and made you not want to do it. The way I've described this in a non-spoiler sense to people is, imagine in Infinity War, the snap happens. And let's say no other movies were announced, right? And then Kevin Feige comes on stage like, you know what? So here's the rest of the plans. Oh, when do we get the fall for Infinity War? Well, here's the thing. You're going to get it in 5 years. And you go, oh, really? Like you guys you're making the movie? It's not made yet? No. We've had it made. We just want you to wait 5 years. Oh, okay, cool. What do we get in the meantime? You're going to get a bunch of prequel movies about characters that you've just met and you know their whole story. Oh, okay, this is what you want? Huge error, in my opinion. And I think my last point about this is if they want to go this route of the whole, you're going to take over as Abby and stuff, this is where I hate, because I feel like these people that made the game, Neil Druckmann and team, are the people that go, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, it's about the story. Then why not market that? They are not marketing it because they want that big, like, yeah, we got you, huh? We shook the boat. You didn't see that coming, but guess what? You're playing 6 hours of Abby. Haha, big twist, big shock. To me, the same people that are putting on the 6 hour prequel should have, I don't know, the gumption to let some of their most hardcore fans know, hey, you're going to take a big shift. Even if they don't even have to say the big shift as far as you're going to play as her 6 hour straight. Just say going in, because the trailers, their words is that this game is Ellie's story. It's about Ellie. It's Ellie's game. It kind of is. It half is, but it's also half Abby's game. even if they would have said, hey, this is about Ellie's story, but we also have a character named Abby. We hope you enjoy her story because it's also about her. And that would have primed me to been like, yeah, sure, we got that E3 trailer of Abby, but that doesn't prime me to think that she's going to be the second lead in this. And as far as a playable lead, because Ellie's the second lead of Last of Us, but you don't play as her for hours. And it's still in Joel's story, right? So I feel like they just did it to be tricky and to have a gotcha moment, like we really pulled the wool over your eyes, like huge twist and you didn't see it coming. Yeah, you didn't, but you know what? Instead of giving me a treat, you spat in my face, and I really didn't enjoy that. And that portion of the game for me it's tough because I was talking about as far as a rating. The quality rating, I would still pass it because it's well made, it's well acted, and all that stuff, and the story is comparable. But as far as my enjoyment and if overall, I would have to give that portion of the game is a failing grade for sure, just because the editing and the pacing of it and the story of it, the placing of it, and it did bring down the rest of the game. Because like I said, that third act, I'm excited again to one day watch the cutscene movie, not watch any of Abby's stuff or just admire enough, and then watch that whole ending again. Because I was always like, we're playing as Ellie, and then switch back to Abby. I'm like, really? Again? Like, I want to be with these characters that I've known for, the past 7 years. Obviously, there's only one game, but you have your theories, you see trailers, all this stuff, and I just... it really soured me, and I'm really disappointed. From the bottom of my heart, I think you can tell from this review that as far as I did not want to be in the negative side of reviews, especially because lots of them I'll just get lumped into if any problems with the game, be like, oh, well, you just didn't like the, identity politics. No, that's not it. I just really hated the choice they made. I'll still get lumped in the Joel, like, you hate it because Joel died. No, I just hate it because of how they told this story. Like I said, there's still stuff in that story that would have been good. I think you could still find a way to do it, but they dropped the ball so hard, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Feels like this was a different team, yeah. But this, like I said, that whole thing makes me want to buy physical, makes me not want to play this game again, makes me want to wait when Neil Druckmann puts out another game. And even then it's tough because critically it really hit, right? So I'd have to kind of wait the week after to see what fans want. And I don't want that because I like a lot of this game. So I feel like the next time he puts out a game, I will risk it and buy it, but it will definitely be physical because I would have got some in-store credit for this game right away because so we have that, like I was talking about, it's set up. Abby beats the shit out of her. She's gonna kill Dina, and then the little Asian boy says, no, don't do that. She's just like, be a better person, and she doesn't. I love that thing where she goes, Ellie's like, she's pregnant, and then Abby goes like, good, and she goes to slit her throat. So they walk away, her and the boy, right? And she says, don't let me ever see you again, which is a very valid threat. Just like, you're dead. You're dead if I see you ever again. Makes sense to me. They jump ahead. She has that Red Dead life where she's retired. She's done Jack's anymore around all the people. Tommy survived, so that was good. I liked that little because it looked like he was dead. He survived, but her and Dina's life is pretty good. Pretty good. Except Ellie is riddled with PTSD. Anything, at one point a shovel falls and she just gets flashes of Joel dying and she has nightmares and whatnot. You get to see in her diary of, again, I'll say this too, not like a joke or anything, but if you need help out there, go get it, because I think they didn't dive in that too much in this game, but they showed that she's talking about how she can't sleep and the light's getting darker, and like in a mental sense, in the sense of like honestly, her notes felt like, yes, struggling with PTSD, but also felt like she may kill herself. She can't deal with this. So as always, please do a Google search. And if you need help, if you're struggling, that is not the answer. There's many people that love you. You may not think there is, but there's many people that love you, or there's many people that are going to love you in the future that you haven't even met. So it's not even, I could say, the last option. It is no option. Do not do that. People want you here. And I think they did a good job of showing that she is a mess. She's a wreck. So when Tommy comes up and presents her this opportunity of, hey, I found Abby. They say there's a woman built like an ox. She had a boy, her hair, blah, blah, blah. This is her. Want to go find her. And another point where when she's talking to Dina, and she's just it says this in her diary too, of one day her diary journal, she took JJ for a horseback ride, and he was laughing the whole time, having a good time, loving life, and she was feeling like being a mom. And they have, again, great chemistry here. And she said, for once in my life since it happened, I've not thought about Seattle, where all those events went down. And that shows that through the 9 months, through all this, she's been she keeps thinking about that. And now I've never had that experience of, murdering a bunch of people or almost being murdered. But I think we've all had that experience, whether it is losing a family member or even a breakup, where there's times in my life where I've broken up with somebody or been broken up with, and you go, especially when you're like younger in high school, you go, man, how am I ever how, like, it's happened to me, like, even before I started with Emily as being someone serious, like, how am I ever gonna get over this person? It was just, so right. And then as time goes on, you just go, okay, I moved on and I figured it out. But I think we can attest to what she's going through is the times where you weren't in that. It just feels like you're being crushed and you're smothered by these thoughts. You can't not think about that person, whether, like I said, someone passed away, everything reminds you. Maybe you hear a song and you think of that person that you lost, you broke up with. So for Ellie, it seems like every day for almost a year now, she's been going through this. So she's just looking for anything to kind of give her relief so she can relax and finally be at peace. So she decides, I'm going to go get Abby. Great conversation with her and Dina, because Dina just kind of lays out of like, if you do, like, Ellie's explained how much she loves her, and she goes, if you love us, you would stay. This is not worth dying for. This is not, you have a life here. We can build a life. We're happy. We are lucky to be where we are. And if you go, I'm probably not going to be here. And I love Ellie, her response, because she was very much like Joel, but it shows her character on her path. I hate it as a viewer. And what I went, I don't want you to go, because I thought if she goes, she's dead. And I'll explain why I was still right at the end. If she goes, she's dead. And I don't want her to do this because she looks like she's built this life and I love this character. Don't do this. But then she just says to Dina, goes, you do what you have to. And it's just like, oh. And I use that expression all the time from Dexter, is that with one of the only few good seasons left in the last seasons was the season where he met Hannah. And he goes, spoilers for Dexter. And he goes to kill her and he doesn't really want to. And she just looks at him and says, do what you got to do. I had done that many times as far as dating or as far as friendships or even stuff like with podcasting as far as business-wise. You go, we just disagree on this, but you do what you have to. Whatever is going to make you feel better, you do it. And that's what that was, of like, I have to do this. However you respond, but I respect that. And she responded by leaving her, which we'll get into. I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel, but she goes, that's when you get back to Abby. Abby is kidnapped by these people that kind of trick her, I think. I'm not sure if the radio was a real message. It says, hey, if you come here, there's a sanctuary. You'll have some new people here. We'll keep you safe. I'm not sure if that was real or if that was a trick. But either way, her and the boy get kidnapped. And then we jump. We didn't know, but 2 months later, Ellie goes to the same location, which I laugh because Ellie's like, there she is. She has to be there. And then later on when she gets there, it's like, yeah, we found her 2 months ago. So it's like you would have got there and she would have been 2 months ago. Like, she would have been gone. So it's just so funny how some of the characters work in this game. Same thing Walmart complaint. Ellie, too many times in this game. It happens 4 times I could count on my mind right now. She'll fall down on like cement and then it starts to break and you fall into a room. It happens so much. It happened in the boss fight with Abby the first time. Whatever. So you get this almost like Kane and Lynch vibe level where you have these guys that are in like these huge mansions that you see like drug lords in Mexico using, and they have like crawler, or they have like the what are they? Are they crawlers? I can't remember. I've said their name, but they have all the infected and whatnot, like a bunch of them on chains and whatnot and everything. So you can tell that they have control, they have a society, but they're also kidnapping people to do what with them? I don't know. Chores, who knows? They have them in prison cells. But Abby's one of those. Abby tried to escape, and the whole mission is you're breaking in, which I said this to my fiance. I've like, again, I liked it because it shows how far Ellie has been driven, but it's almost been stated for a fact that Abby is going to die where she is right now. So you've won. You've gotten your revenge. But for Ellie, revenge as far as Abby dying, which we saw a little bit of that earlier, but it shows that it's grown, that if the revenge is not by her hand, it's not revenge. She'll still be empty. She's not making that choice. So Abby's dead to rights. But no, she has to go in there, create like a prison riot. She has to break a bunch of people out, take on clickers. That was their name, not crawlers. Take on a bunch of like almost like drug cartel people, all people with guns. This is the only time in the game you get an automatic gun. So you get a submachine gun, assault rifle. And it's a great set piece. It's a great kind of final level. And then you break everyone out and they say, hey, Abby tried to escape. So they put her at this, I can't remember, some place where they call it, but it's a beach. It's like a fucking survivor game, but they're all on these wooden poles. These people that are tried to escape are kind of deemed dangerous. They have a noose around their neck that's up on the pole, and then they're just standing on one flack of wood. So it's almost like you have this, and then if you step off, you're dead. She is disheveled. She is very kind of Tony Stark-like at the beginning of Endgame. She's skinny. She is a character that, yes, she's very big. She's very muscular. She's lost majority of that. She's a shell of her former self. She's a twig at some points. They've cut her hair. So even just whether they use her just to embarrass her, you can tell she's been through a lot. She's bruised, she's battered, she's beaten. And Ellie lets all these people go. Ellie sees her and she goes, "You." Not that was more aggressive, but she did. What's her name? Abby just goes, "You," and she's surprised, but she cuts her down, lets her go, and you can see again how well they've developed this and animated this. All the animation. There is times where it did feel like next gen was here. Now this is a game that I think at times it looks the best like a PS4 can go, and I think when we get to PS5 you go, oh, it could look a little better. But there's some action set pieces or cutscenes that just have the uncanny valley vibe where at times like this looks like a real person. That's fucking crazy. So animation is on par as far. You see Ellie, you can see she's struggling. Now for me, what I was saying earlier, I know if Ellie's going there to kill her and just to full out kill her, she's going to die. Because to me, I don't think Abby, in my opinion, is the full-on good guy of the story, but I think she is kind of the good guy as far as she lost her dad, and she's really done nothing wrong. She's just trying to get revenge for her father as far as the circumstance. Whatever the circumstance was, that was her circumstance if she just lost her dad. I just didn't think unless they're going to make Ellie be off really deep end. I just thought that if she's going there, either Abby's going to kill her or she's going to kill Abby and the boy's going to kill her. This doesn't end well for Abby or Ellie. And I love the moment where she is at just the bottom. She is the lowest of the low Ellie. Abby's like, "Follow me, there's boats." Abby gets in a boat. She's getting it ready with the boy. And you see Ellie's putting her stuff in the boat and she's getting ready to leave, and it's almost like, oh, a Breaking Bad moment where she saved her and she's going to let her go even though there's all this hate. It's almost like I let it go. She throws down the gun and just goes, "I can't let you leave." And I got like goosebumps when that happened because like, oh no, you're same thing as her leaving, Dean. It's like, you were almost out. You could have been out of this. And it just goes, she even throws down her gun because again, she could have shot her while she was hung. She could have shot her in the back. She could have killed her multiple times. But no, she has to kill her with her bare hands. She has to be the one to physically do it, which I love. From a character standpoint, I love. And then Abby's like, "You don't have to do this. I'm not." And then what happens is Ellie goes over and starts beating up. She's like, "I'm not fighting you." She's taking that Peace Walker path of, "I'm not doing this. You can't make me do this." But Ellie can make her do it because she takes up the switchblade, presses up against the boy's throat, and says, "I will kill him." And she goes, "If he's innocent, well then fight me, or I'm gonna take him. It doesn't matter." I think she says he's not a part of this, and Ellie goes, "You made him a part of this." And it's like, oh, she is. That's where to me people can, I think it's ambiguous, and people might say that's full on the villain. I do think it is, but that's kind of the point. You're seeing this character doing very terrible things, and even then you could make the case, right, if she killed Joel and she's doing anything to fight Joel. But I think that is her being, I think, again, when I saw that critique, because Taylor showed that to me, I don't like that because I think for the majority of the game it's morally ambiguous, but I think there's key moments where it's not. But it's supposed to be. Those are the key moments where I think in my life, if someone puts a knife to a child's throat who has a child, I would think that's a pretty bad thing. I don't need to be, oh, that's ambiguous. Is she, no, that's bad. She's at the deep end. And then I was just like, fine, I'll fight you. Let's do this. And they have a brutal, brutal fight, which I forgot to mention the first boss fight. I wasn't a fan of fighting as Abby because you would use tricks like throwing a bottle and then Ellie would be like, "Oh, I got you now, fucker." I didn't like that you would use the same tricks that Ellie would use on other kind of lesser like CPU characters to trick her. It kind of brought Ellie down a bit for me as far as in that moment, so that kind of was not a fan. But this moment, it's just you got a knife, your fist, and you're fighting Abby. It's brutal. Tons of stabbing, tons of violence. I get people have brought up the whole torture porn thing and things like that. I don't agree with it, but I understand if that really bugs you, then you could see that. But I think it's warranted because I think the series started off brutal, and the events of the first game and this game, things are just escalating and they're getting worse and worse and worse, and this game is all escalation. I think the boss battle needed to be that, and you get to the point where it's very brutal, but you are suffocating. You're drowning Abby in the water because you've won the fight. You're drowning, or you're seeing flashbacks, and she has this flash of Joel quickly playing guitar, and then she stops. And it's that kind of moment. I think that she lets her go for a few reasons. One, I think not a funny reason, but the reason is just she can kind of be good because she knows she answered that question. I could have killed her. She literally gave her life. For other times it was, she could have killed her with like when she was hung or when she had her back turned, but that was like a cheap shot, right? That was like circumstances. Ellie needed to feel like I could best you and beat you, and she did do that. So it's like even if she lets her live, she goes like in her mind, she's like, I killed her. I could have killed her. So she has that answered, right? But I think it's more like, so that's just my kind of tongue in cheek, but it's still there. But more so as far as I can't do this anymore because I'm doing something now where maybe I can't come back from, and maybe it's setting in as far as she may, as far as Ellie's point of view, not be a perfect person. She killed Joel, took him from me, but at the end of the day, she has flaws, but she has good things in her. She saved this child. She was put in a situation that she didn't want, similar to Joel. The same ways that she made mistakes and killed people and took lives is the same kind of reason Joel did. For different circumstances, I think Abby's a bit more warranted, but Joel has that perspective of, it's there. It's not cut and dry, and I think she sees that. I think she knows with Abby, and I think she knows it's not worth it at this point. And I also think, again, which a theme I think they don't hit too much over the head, but they maybe reinforce it a few more times than they ought to, was the revenge theme, and I think it was just, this is not good. It's almost like Ellie knows of like, look at all this revenge back and forth. If I do this, what's going to be the precautions? Because it's almost like Ellie is not going to kill that kid in the boat, right? So it's almost like if I kill Abby and leave, that kid in the boat, Kill Bill style, is going to be like, just like Black Mamba, like, hey, Black Mamba's daughter, hey, when you're ready, come find me and we can talk. And it's just like, yeah, this daughter, there's a circle of you kill her mom, now she's going to come and kill you. This might happen. This boy may turn up to be a man and show up on Ellie's doorstep one day with her family and butcher them, be like, you took this person that means so much for me. And it's just this circle, right? It's the worst type of circle of hatred and murder and just pure vengeance. And it's a Batman quote for me. My version of Batman is, if you go down that path, if you cross that line, you can't come back from it. And clearly in this world they have to cross the line, but the thing is, I think there's a certain point of line, and that was the line for Ellie, where if you do this, there's almost no recovery for you. You are almost fully on the bad, terrible person side. Like, look at what you've become. And I think that all just washed over her. And I love that there was no emotional scene. You could have had some conversation, but I love it was just like, get out of here, go. Because it's almost like Ellie wasn't sure in this moment if she had finally had her come to Jesus moment of, okay, I'm better, I've seen the light, or I may snap again and I don't want you to be here because I may take this back. So I like that she told her, gather just in case. She goes back home. Pretty much all she got for it was she lost 2 fingers because Abby bit them off. So really that mission was just like, definitely not worth it. You got a lot more bruised and you lost 2 fingers. So not great. But that, I think those fingers can be a reminder. One, she's maybe a little going to be pissed because like, oh, Abby gave me those. But it's always a reminder of everything that happened. And it could be a story to her child. It can be a story for her how she doesn't make these mistakes again and go down this path, because it goes, you have your mentally of look what you lost, but you always be reminded when you look down your hand and go, right, like, there's a reason that's there. And the reason is I lost those fingers. I chose to do that. I didn't have to, and at the end of the day, it kind of helped Abby, her selfishness, because it saved her. But her kind of pain, physically and emotionally, a lot of that is self-inflicted for Ellie. She gets back. Everything's cleared out at home except a few pieces of art everything that's Ellie's is there, art and Joel's guitar. She plays it, which I thought was very cool. We've seen all these clips of people playing these guitars, like playing Hurt and all this stuff and Creep. Very cool. I didn't know you could do that because I can't play guitar with shit. I used to play bass, but that was about it. And then she has the flashback with Joel, which I talked about somebody that's a fan of the Ultimate Alliance feed, as far as the placement of some of these flashbacks and whatnot. And his point was, I wish that was kind of earlier. And he kind of had that idea of he wanted more Joel, and that happens in the middle. I talked to him. I already sent this review why I disagree. But the reason I disagree with this one is this is the final, because this the cinematic portion, the movie portion ends with she puts on this guitar and she walks in the woods. We don't know where she's going exactly. You could make the case that maybe she's going to go do, the Sam Jackson Pulp Fiction thing and walk the earth. She's seen too much. But in my opinion, you need this flashback because it shows she has to fight back to get her family. She has to make an effort, and she knows it's not going to be easy, and she knows it's not going to be. She knows that it's going to be very tough for Dina, and especially even just, she's still got PTSD, but very tough for JJ as well down the line to deal with this, because she is now in Joel's shoes, where Joel every time expressed how he hated doing what he had to do, but he wouldn't change it because it gave Ellie her life. And it's that point of view where they have this conversation and she says, I'm going to try to forgive you. And Joel goes, I would like that. She is now Joel. She now has to go there and hopefully get Dina and her family back. But if not, she's going to sit around and wait and be there as much as possible till she gets that opportunity. And the thing is, which is why it's that circle, if she would have killed Abby, there's a chance that that doesn't happen. She comes back and she's, rested, and maybe she's fine with she's finally at peace. She can rest. But that may be taken away. The same way with Joel. Finally, there was a bridge being built back between him and Ellie. Finally, she was forgiving him, but it was taken away just a few days later, even a few hours later, because karma, revenge, vengeance, whatever you want to say, caught up with them and took him out. She doesn't have that worry because obviously there's clickers and tons of bad things, but as far as her bringing any baggage to the table of, hey, one day people might come after us, that's not there. So she has that chance more so than Joel that she could really rebuild what was lost. And that's how it's kind of my idea as far as like in Breaking Bad, the way the endings, I always felt I knew what Jesse's story goes. And then we got the movie, which I was, pretty disappointed in, but it was still answer that question like, yeah, that's how it went. And I go, okay. And I think we don't need a movie, don't need a plot. I would love some end credit scene of her showing up on Dina's doorstep, like just that's it. But I think we all know she's showing up on Dina's doorstep to try to make things better, and she's going to work very hard, but I think she will eventually get there because I think she'll tell Dina the story and Dina will appreciate it. And I think Ellie's journeys as far as needing to fill that void with revenge or murder or killing is gone now. It's going to always scar and it's going to be with her, but it's gone now. And now put that aside, and you don't know how many days you got. In that type of world, you're living on borrowed time, so it's best she just enjoys it. And I think that's what it was. It was a beautiful ending with the flashback conversation, her playing the guitar, and just that shot of the guitar on the window seal, and then you see Ellie walking out. Almost like she made the move away from Jackson just to keep him away from everybody, but now it's almost like I need to embrace that aspect of my life again as well. So, and because maybe she just feels more at peace with it. So, yeah, the ending was great, phenomenal. Like I said, the beginning was phenomenal, great. That middle portion, as you can see, I spent a long time talking about, was very disappointing, was very hard, tough pill to swallow. So as far as a final rating, and I don't think I'm going to give final thoughts because I think you know my kind of final thoughts, and it's kind of what I said in the overalls, the non-spoiler of. It is a great game that left a sour taste in my mouth, but I hope over time, kind of like Joel asking for forgiveness, I hope over time this game will settle in with me more. I don't think the middle portion I will ever like, but as far as hopefully I will remember it more for the pros than the cons. It's really tough. For me, like quality-wise, I can see it. I think quality-wise, just from just the game-making point of view, it is somewhere in the higher nines. I would give it like a 9. I'd dock it a point for the story because I think even the story pacing hurts the game overall. And honestly, I think I would probably dock it lower. I'm being nicer than a 9. My overall enjoyment, it's so tough because I legitimately, when I was playing that middle stuff, I was going to fail this game. I was going to be like a 4.9. But even myself, it's hard for me to do that. But I get why some people, like I was talking to that guy earlier, I said, he's like, I gave it a 5.5 just because that story just derailed it so much for me. And I get it. It's the same thing as Rise of Skywalker. You can throw out any score and I kind of get it. So for the Joel and Ellie stuff, if you just cut out that Abby portion completely gone, I probably would have, this game would be a 10 for me. And I honestly, I don't think I've given a 10 score at all this year because there's been a lack of movies and games. So it might be my first 10 of the year, but it was perfect. If not perfect, nearly perfect. Everything I wanted and more. And I thought you couldn't do that because the ending of the first game was so shocking. But they did a different route. Instead of shocking, they didn't shock you at all. They gave you this well-written, well-performed, well-acted, well-animated, perfect closure. It was just, phenomenal. But then you have this portion in the middle that was just such a huge sink. I think it might be high, but I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. The reason I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 is because that stuff was so strong. Very strong, but it took like a whole 2 points off. Realistically, there is a version of myself that gives us a fail. And maybe in a few years or months I'll say, it's more of a 7, maybe more of a 6, but it's tough. So that's maybe that's my 2 scores as far as like the Joel and Ellie stuff separately. 10/10. The game, the way it's made, 9/10. My enjoyment overall as far as start to finish, that's like a 6, 5, almost a fail, because that middle portion really took me out. I know that's a lot of scores. Maybe people can average it out, but it is it's a difficult thing to, I would say, put a finite score on. Some things that's why I never really feel, like I don't think Briggs and Jessica score things anymore. I know Dylan doesn't. I never have a problem because it's like, this is my barometer of how much I liked it. And I always say it's on a enjoyment scale. I've given many things 10s. It's not because I think it's perfect. I think I maybe said Logan's like a masterpiece of the genre. I maybe stand by that. But even Logan, I could pick out 2 or 3 things like, look at this fucking cell phone video. What is this? That makes no sense. There's no movie that is perfect. There's no game that is perfect. It's just an impossibility. But it's that kind of enjoyment level, right? And my enjoyment at times was as low as a fail, which was heartbreaking. Heartbreaking for me that loves this team and loves the directors and was very hyped for this game. So that's why it's kind of a barometer of like, you got a bunch of scores going on. And Rise of Skywalker has been out, not for a year, but it's been out for a while. And I still haven't decided on like a final score of that. That goes all the time around. BVS is sometimes like that. It's like, I don't know how to score it because I'm always still conflicted by certain things. And that's always going to be this game. I hope in a few months that'll settle, but I don't think so. But I know for a fact, unlike Rise of Skywalker, maybe BVS, there's things like, like some days I like this, some days I don't. I know for a fact, I can't say, I guess, a fact, but I'm 99% sure. I'll say a fact. I'm never going to like the way they did it. Yeah, I may be able to, swallow that pill a bit easier down the line, but as far as the execution, they kind of, I'm not going to say robbed me because that's very hyperbolic, but they hurt my experience big time with that choice. And hey, that's a bold play. If they want to be bold, good for you guys. You did it. You made a big swing. I just think you broke the bat and you struck out right after. So bunch of scores there, bunch of final thoughts. I'm going to get out of here. I've said everything. As usual, all links are down below. If you want to support us, please subscribe on the video and audio feeds. Thank you very much for tuning in. When you hear from me next, I promise you, it'll not be boring.